In the dairy way of things, we never thought we'd actually end up with our own dairy farm. So while we were share milking, we bought a runoff and it had a house on it, so we're now converting that. We're going to milk 170 cows through a 30-side shed, so it's going to be easy. It's going to be great. Meanwhile, I can have my job as well. And one thing I'm sort of looking at is not only growing my role as a female stock agent, but also whether about going into rural arbitration, because there aren't a lot of rural arbitrators out there. And we have actually been into arbitration with one of our old past farm owners over a dispute, and we really felt that the arbitrator had no idea what he was talking about. So I think it would be good, even if any of us in this room became rural arbitrators. Hi, I'm Shelley Krieger. I'm the stock agent for South Island dairy farmers, actually dairy stock agent I should say. I'm based in Balclutha, and my passion is customer service and animals. Right from young I've loved all sorts of animals, so what I'm out there now doing is really being a facilitator between people trying to sell their stock, people trying to buy their stock, and I'm also trying to help the young ones out there who are entering the dairy industry who really don't know where to go from beginning. There's a lot of guys out there that are young farm workers and they say, how do I get any further up through the chain than what I am now? So I'm just sort of going through with them the options that my husband and I have done to get up to. We now have a farm which we're now converting to dairy. So really my driver is really everything that has happened to me in dairying. I'm now sort of pushing through with that and trying to, one reason I'm a stock agent is because we had some poor dealings with stock agents, so I thought, hey, I can do a better job than that. For instance, there's one young guy that I go and call on. He had some calves that he'd bought and he'd put out on grazing, and I had a buyer to buy these calves, and I'd seen them 6 weeks prior and they were absolutely beautiful. So I took the buyer out there, and when we got there they didn't look very good. He hadn't drenched them, he hadn't copper bulleted them, B12 selenium, and he'd also presumed that the grazier was doing a good job, so he hadn't been to check on them. So I said to him, firstly, he has to not put his head in the sand, and he's got to look after his stock. You've got to regularly drench them, so I gave him a sort of a diary of events, what he should be doing with his stock. How you cannot presume that someone's looking after your stock, you have to look after them. Also said to him if he's going to be buying and selling any stock, he has to be GST registered, he has to get an accountant and form a company. And this is all new to him. And I also explained to him that when you buy stock, say you buy a calf, when they become a yearling, you then have to pay tax on the increase in value of that stock, even though you haven't actually made any money, and that blows their minds. They have absolutely no idea about that because no one tells you that. So he's now GST registered, he's got a company, he's looking after his stock, and he said although it upset him at the time that his stock didn't sell straight away, he now realises it was a cheap lesson to learn at the start of his career. Really out there, my husband's been behind me 100%. I've had to help him with all the dairying side of it and do all the milkings and the calvings and that, so now he's looking after the kids and stuff while I go out and pursue my career. Once the kids are at a certain age, you can go on and have your own career. When I met my husband, I wasn't in dairying, so I had to learn from scratch everything that you need to learn to survive, which wasn't always pretty. And then now that I've done those hard yards, now my children are 6 and 8 years old, and they've been dragged with me to the cow shed and endured all the rigours of dairy life. Now it's time for me, now the children are at school, to be able to go out and actually have a bit of life and get back to remembering who I was before I even had children. So now, because I've learned everything about that I need to know so far about dairying, although you learn every day, I've also got the customer service background and the sales, so I'm just sort of combining it all together to try and go and do a good service for the farmers out there.